has the right to freedom of association, has the right to freedom of expression, and of course, the most important of all, has the right to be protected from all forms of abuse, neglect, exploitation, or violence. And that takes me to who is a child. The child we'll be looking at today is a child under 18. And that's why we're going to be covering schools, the primary and the secondary area. And when we're looking at who is a child, we will be bringing you in. That's why you are here today, obviously, to help us to see how we can eradicate child abuse or reduce it so that at least we're sure our children will be able to grow up in a safe environment. Child Health Advocacy Initiative was actually initiated, I'll just say a little bit about us, by the United States Agency for International Development, USAID. And the focus is to make sure every Nigerian child survives and develops. Child is also a member of Lagos State Maternal and Child Mortality Reduction Committee, which is a committee set up to make sure there's a reduction in the deaths of children and women in Lagos State. When we talk of child abuse, we'll be hearing child abuse throughout today. I'll just give a small definition. It is any sort of behavior or practice that's harmful to a child. It could be sexual, it could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be verbal, or it could be neglect. We'll be looking at child abuse more in the school environment today. The essence, when we talk about child abuse, especially in Nigeria, it's a broad issue. And obviously it starts, we have it in the communities, we have it at home, we have it in the school, but we are trying to use this opportunity to solve the issue of child abuse and help these children from the school. Because when they move from home, the next place they move to most times is the school. And at times most of the abuse happens in the home. So, the essence of being here today is to be one, like the Minister of Justice has said, mandated reporters. Secondly, is to be ambassadors of the rights of the child. God has given you that role to be destiny models to the teachers. You're going to go ahead, not just to teach, but to protect these children and let them be better leaders in the future. So you're going to be mandated reporters. You're going to make sure you are like a watchdog for all the children in your custody. You're going to be ambassadors. You're going to make sure you see any case of abuse, you report it. For example, a child comes to school with abuse all over the body. You just look at that child and like, well, I don't know what's happening to this child. Now you move on. We are talking about mandatory reporting today. Do you see a child that's like always reluctant to go home? Have you ever asked like, what's worrying you? Do you see a child that has been very brilliant before, all of a sudden the grade starts dropping? Or the child that was well behaved, all of a sudden starts misbehaving? Those are all the things we're going to help to do. We cannot go to the homes to catch or know what's happening, but we can get there. That is what the British government does. Child abuse cases are mostly detected from schools, and the way they get it, they report it. Social worker is assigned, they monitor the child, and they know what's happening to that child. So that is the role we are going to play here today. After today, you are going to go back to your schools and still learn this workshop training such that everybody will be carried along, the teachers and the counselors, whoever, like those in custody of the children, would go away. After the training, you're going to go away with all the necessary things you need to put in place to help us detect and report child abuse cases in school so that we'll have reduction. So we'll be looking at different issues today. Firstly, I'll be looking at the issue of relationship. What kind of relationship do we have with the children in school? I must say, you have been doing a lot of things, and what we have said today is that we're just going to try and fill the gaps to make sure we can help to eradicate child abuse. What kind of relationship do you have? We have said a child has a right to freedom of expression, and as you have been told that you need to report cases, we need to create a kind of a relationship where the children are free to talk with us. Where you see cases of a child wanting to talk, I'm not sure if I should talk to this person or not. Is this person going to help me? Is this person going to put me in more trouble? Can I confide in this person? We need to work on it if we want to solve the issue of child abuse in Nigeria. With the children, we need to draw them close, like our children. Like I said, prompt them. Any observation, call them, talk to them, work on them so that you can get the necessary information. of bullying too. Bullying is part of child abuse. It happens in the school environment. We seem to have seen it as normal. It is not normal. And it's affecting a lot of children psychologically out there. For example, I know a woman who told me there's a boy in my daughter's class who is always missing out, and she doesn't like going to school because of that. Another person told me my girl is fat. They gave her nicknames, they make fun of her. Like, the girl also didn't have confidence in herself very long here. And she's like, I need to change the school. People actually went to the school and talking to the teacher, trying to find a solution. It wasn't solved until the woman withdrew the child from that school. We need to help. Universally, United Nations has set aside May 1st. That was done in 2012 as anti-bullying day. And I think that's something we should incorporate in Nigeria, in our schools. These children see it as if it's just normal. We should let them know it's not normal. It's affecting other children, and we should correct it. So we should, in our various ways, see how we can set aside May 1st as anti-bullying day. Or they also have in Canada what they call bullying awareness month. It's so easy. They are the ones who are the culprits, really bullying themselves. So they could set aside that day, create awareness, sensitize the children. It could be drama, it could be songs, it could be work, different activities, and let them reduce bullying in the schools. And you're going to be watchdogs. You're going to be ambassadors. When a child stops coming to school for one reason or the other, have we taken it upon ourselves? I don't know the system you have in place. Like I said, there are some things you are doing, but some gaps need to be filled. The Lagos State government has gone far to make sure every child must be in school. No child will be found on the streets trading. But I must tell you, when a child comes to school and after, you just don't see this child in school again. I think at times they assume maybe they take the child to another school and all that. Well, that is wrong. I must tell you, in UK, for example, if a child disappears from school for one day, maybe that child is sick or whatever, it must be reported. For any reason, if the child stops coming to school, you want to change the school, you take the child away, it must be reported. I must tell you, I have an example. I had my children in the UK, and for one reason, one has to come to Nigeria. It took me close to 1 month explaining where that child was. In writing, verbally, everything, and it was like, no. Even if the child has gone to another school, they must monitor the school and be sure that child is in that school. What are we doing in Nigeria? What are we doing in Lagos State? There was a report in Punch on February 14th. It was Valentine's Day, so I can remember it very well. There was a man who had an issue with his wife, and he, for whatever reason, well, he locked up, he stopped the children from going to school, maybe so the mother wouldn't have access to them, kept them in the home, and was always like, maybe some of you have heard about the story, and was always beating them up, and didn't stop them from going to school. It was the neighbors that kept drew the attention of Punch newspaper to it, and were kind of worried that this man has stopped his children from going to school. He locks them up, he beats them every day, they shout. These children were attending one school before. What happened in this school? When they stopped seeing these children in school, was there any effort to trace them to know what is happening to them? That is a serious case of child abuse happening in the home, which would have been detected from the school, if the school monitors the children. So we have a lot of responsibility in that area to make sure any child that stops coming to school, whatever system we are going to put in place today, is monitored to know what has happened to that child. Even if that child is not feeling well, is the child monitored to know when the child is now monitored better and can be back to school, or the child is not has gone to another school? Do we know where? There must be records where the child has gone to. And if somebody is keeping the child at home, then since there is a law, the child should be brought back to school. Then I'll be looking at the corporal punishments. Like I said, there are things happening in school. I don't know the extent of that. When corporal punishment becomes physical abuse, sort of, it can affect the life of the child. It's an issue in child abuse and the rights of the child that we need to look at now. Can we look at other ways of punishing the children? I think I will leave that back to the teachers to talk about what they have been doing and how we can reduce corporal punishment that would be a threat to life of any child. Then I'm looking at the case of recreation as well. Yes, we've said one of the rights of the child is the right to recreation. Obviously, I know our schools have a lot in place in the area of playground and activities for the break time and the play time. But I want to just bring out something, because at times we are ignorant of some things. I'll give a case of, because what happens in Nigeria most times, we don't put things in there, but when things happen, we find a way around it. But I'll give an instance. There was a case in Kenya, or when the playground of the children was taken over, the government cut off the playground of the children and sold it to a private developer where the children were break, and they came back to school and they found they didn't have any playground again. So that's like infringing on their rights. For no reason should the government, for commercial reasons, have cut off the playground of the school and start using it for commercial use. When children play, they learn a lot of skills, which is part of the development for the child. I know there's a case in Lagos State where the nursery school was turned into a shopping center and things like that, but I don't want to go into that. But one point I want to also bring out again is that during that incident, the teachers, it's just a lesson for us here today. The teachers decided to kind of do a protest, and they now brought the children out. I don't know if you heard about the story. They brought the children out and they did a protest, and then some NGOs joined them and all that. And then they started, the policemen were on ground and started putting tear gas on them. And of course, most of the children, they put the children forward for that protest. And the children got suffocated, some of them were rushed up, and don't know if they died and all that. So there was so much noise about it, like why would the police start using tear gas on children? But the problem was the caregivers, the teachers, should never, under any condition, have exposed those children to a protest. So it's not as if why the police use tear gas on children. It is knowing our responsibility when the children are young. We should not expose them to danger. We should never, for any reason, have brought them out to a protest, such that the police will now use tear gas and then their lives are threats. Then I'll be looking at the school structure, the environment. Like I said, we are going to interact. A lot of things may still need the support of the government to put in place for us so that we can actually help to protect the children. When we talk about the school structure now, what kind of schools do we have? Do we have a well-secured school? Do we have like a fence in the school? Do we have security guards? When we talk about the case of the Chibok girls, our dear Chibok girls, which we are still waiting for to program, the school was not protected. There was no fence there. There was no security. I wouldn't think about it, but I know the school was exposed. So it was so easy for Boko Haram to have gone into attack there. So when we're talking about protecting the child, the structure of the school must be suitable to make sure the children are protected from any form of danger. Intruders who want to come and harm them for any reason. Then I'm looking at cases of health and safety. Well, the Red Cross hopefully is going to join us today to throw more light on that. How do we protect our children when they're we know what kind of first aid do we have in place in the schools then? And then we're looking at things like when there's a fire outbreak, for example, what do you have in place? If there are extinguishers there, is there like a kind of assembly point? Have you trained the children? Have you informed them of what to do when there's a fire outbreak? We need to protect the children in our custody. We need to know that it's our responsibility to make sure they are safe when they are with us in school. And of course, internet safety. We know a lot of things happening on the internet there. We know how useful it is and we know how detrimental it could be and what our children are doing with it. To be an issue I'll just mention, maybe probably later we can now talk more about it. So, to conclude, I want to give a quote by late Nelson Mandela. He said, "You can measure the wealth of a nation by the way it treats its children." He also said, "Our children are our greatest treasure. They are our future. Those who abuse them tear at the fabric of our society, and we